You'll know who you are by the enemies you face. The enemy, they thought that they were still underdogs, so they sent spies into the land to scope out the way they were going to do it. But when the spies confronted the person on the other side, Rahab said, "You ain't no underdog anymore. We heard about who you became when you were wondering. We heard about how God showed up for you. We heard about how he delivered victories into your hand. I don't know what giant you're facing. I don't know who you're up against. But I want you to know that that giant is trying to tell you who you are. That fear, that anxiety, that opportunity that looks bigger than you. The fact that you're even up against it. Remember when there was a time when you would have never even been up against it. But the fact that I'm going toe to toe with this thing, and I know that God brought me to it, means that it's got to come down. David never called himself an underdog. We did that. David knew that there was something down on the inside of him that no one else could see. I only looked like the underdog to everyone who was fighting the battle, but I knew something about myself that made me stand up to that giant. And I came here to change what you think about yourself, because there are some giants that you wouldn't even be up against. If greater is he that is in you couldn't take that bad boy out, I wouldn't even be up against this unless I had what it takes. It wouldn't even be a burden on my soul to try and break through what's held generations of my family down. It didn't even bother other people in your family the way that it bothers you. That's because you're going toe to toe with it. They didn't have to go toe to toe with it. Have you ever been somewhere and thought this don't get on y'all's nerves the way it gets on my nerves? It's not meant to get on everybody's nerves, boo. It's meant to get on your nerves, because God anointed you to do that. God graced you to do that thing. I put you in the room so you can shake the room up. My mission tonight is to serve as maybe the spies who went out and scoped out the land. I need you to know they're waiting on you on the other side. I need you to know that the promised land, your promised land, everybody in here has a different promised land. Everybody in here has been assigned to a different industry. I just want you to know that you're not going to take them by surprise. That when you walk in the room, they're going to say, "I've been waiting on somebody like you. I've been waiting. I've interviewed a lot of people. I've seen a lot of scripts. I've seen a lot of portfolios." And somebody saying, "I met a lot of women. I met a lot of men, but I've been waiting on somebody like you. Somebody who understood that this was not just any old territory, but that this was the kind of land that could produce fruit for generations after generations after generations." I was looking for somebody who knew how to be a slave and break out, who knew how to wander and find their way. They're waiting on you to restructure. They're waiting on you to believe again. They're waiting on you. They're waiting on you. Generations are waiting on you. They're waiting on you. They're waiting on you to own your identity. They're waiting on you to really believe that greater is he that is in you than he that is in the world. The bank is waiting on you. The mortgage is waiting on you. The lawyers are waiting on you. They're waiting on the real you. There was a process that the children of Israel had to go through. Some things had to die. They had to be okay with the dying. And then they had to be willing to have their whole function, their whole system restructured. And I hear God saying, don't give up in the restructuring. Don't lose your belief in the restructuring. Don't change your mind in the restructuring. There are some people who have gotten so far out they can't even go back to who they used to be. And they can't even go back to where they used to be. So you have to surrender to the restructuring. I surrender to the restructuring. I surrender to the goodbyes. I surrender to the hellos. God, I surrender to the new level of belief I need to have. I surrender to that. I don't know how I'm going to do it because I have plenty of reasons to not believe, but I don't have anywhere to go but to surrender. And I've gotten too close to the promised land to just pack up my toys and go home. So God, I surrender to the restructuring. God, I trust you. God, I trust that you wouldn't allow me to just get a window view of what you're going to do, that you wouldn't just leave me here. My integrity, my courage, my vulnerability, you're making demands of me. But I surrender to that. And I believe that on the other side of this surrender, that not only will I access the promised land, but that I'm going to access a version of me that I wasn't even sure existed. I didn't know that this was in me. And I don't know what is in me still. But I have to keep restructuring if I'm ever going to find out. You're in this room. And you are straddling the line of either everything could fall apart or it could actually really work this time. Everything could literally turn into rubble. But there's also this chance that it could all work out in a way that, if I'm honest, actually scares me. Because it is so unknown and so foreign to who I am that I almost would rather stay stagnant than make a decision. I want people here who are making a decision that I'm going to surrender to the restructuring. I'm going to surrender to it, God. I'm going to finally start acting and talking and walking like the person I know you've been calling me to be. I'm going to stop crying over what I lost in the process. It doesn't mean that it didn't have value. It doesn't mean that it didn't hurt. It just means that it's dead and you're still here. So you got to keep living and stop acting like you were the one who died in the process. The relationship died. It wasn't you. The job died. It wasn't your gift and your talent. You lost the opportunity, but you let the opportunity take your gift and talent. That thing died. But what's in you, that God placed in you, it can only grow. But you need the right atmosphere. And the most important atmosphere that you can cultivate starts with your ability to believe. Which means that when disbelief begins to start speaking to you and rearing its face in your life, that you have to be willing to tell disbelief, I don't believe like that anymore. The children of Israel couldn't access the promised land because there was still too much disbelief amongst them. But when that generation that had disbelief died, they were finally able to enter into the promised land. Belief broke the curse. And you gotta believe differently.